right, my friends, we are going to get started by reciting the Girl Scout promise. Are you ready? Let's go! On my honor, I will try to serve God and my country, to help people at all times, and to live by the Girl Scout law. All right, are you ready to get gardening? So am I. Go ahead and grab your tools and your gardening gloves and let's get started. Bienvenidos and welcome. My name is Valen Chavez and I'm going to teach you how you can start your very own vegetable garden. In today's lesson, we are going to explore a very ancient tradition that probably your great-great-grandparents participated in, aka gardening. But first, we're going to talk about the 3 fundamentals that we're going to review in today's lesson. Number 1, we're going to talk about the importance of healthy soil and what role it plays in gardening. Number 2, we're going to review the anatomy of a seed and what these little tiny beads really mean. And lastly, we're going to review the magical process that makes it all happen. I'll give you a hint. Photosynthesis. All right, I'm ready if you are. Let's go ahead and get started. But first, we need a few tools to make it happen. To start your seedlings, you're going to need the following. A pair of old clothes, because guess what? You're going to get dirty. Secondly, you're going to need a pair of gardening gloves. This isn't required so much as a preference because if you don't like your hands to get dirty, you're definitely going to need some gloves. Number 3, a couple of gardening tools such as a little hand shovel or a little prick. If you don't have one, you can use one of your pots or a little plastic cup to scoop the dirt out. Number 3, a yard or simply a bag of dirt. If you live in an apartment, don't worry. You can get potting soil at any location at multiple gardening stores. You can go to Lowe's or even support your local nursery such as Fanix or Rainbow Gardens. 4th, a couple of seeds. And if you don't have any seeds available, you can also get these at the store or your nursery when you're picking up your bag of dirt. If you don't have seeds, I'm going to teach you in today's lesson how you can dry your very own seeds by recycling them from kitchen scraps. Number 5, a pitcher of water, or if you're working outside, a gardening hose will do. And lastly, a positive attitude. In today's activity, there's a possibility for failure, and that's okay. As long as you learn and have fun, that's all that matters. So go ahead and get changed, and let's get started. All right, welcome back. Now that you're changed, gotten all your tools, let's get started. So first, we are going to talk about our good old friend, soil. If you're doing this outside or inside, go ahead and take some time to go to your backyard. Walk around. Look down. What do you see? Obviously the ground, but what is underneath the ground? What's underneath the grass? Any takers? That's right, soil. Did you know that soil is created by the continuous process of erosion, during which actions of the wind, water, ice, and waves break down rocks and minerals into a finer material that serves as the core substance of soil? Organisms that live in the soil, such as earthworms, fungus, bacteria, feed on this organic matter to help further decay and recycle important nutrients. So in any healthy soil, you're going to see all kinds of good things. You're going to see bits of wood, of mulch, old stems, roots. You might even see a couple of worms. And that's a good indicator. Anytime you see worms, indicates a healthy, aerated soil. What might not look like anything special is very valuable to life here on Earth. Without it, we wouldn't be able to grow all the delicious fruits and vegetables that you eat every day. To some people, a good piece of land or earth is better than the prettiest diamond or more valuable than gold. Although we often think of soil as dirt, soil quality varies wildly in character. For example, humus, which is seen here, often looks like a dark coffee-colored fertile soil found in the top soil layer. It is rich in organic matter and high in moisture, making it ideal for planting. You might have a yard with sandy soil, on the other hand. That's going to be a little bit browner in color. While it drains easily and warms up quickly, it does not hold moisture or nutrients very well and can be susceptible to water and wind erosion. Most plants begin their lives in what we take for granted, the dirt, aka soil. And this soil will continue to support these plants as they grow. So kind of consider the soil as the seed's home for the foreseeable future. Plants need soil to anchor their roots firmly into the earth, that they don't blow away in the wind. In addition, the microbiological activity with the soil provides so many nutrients and water that growing plants need to survive. Next, we are going to talk about what is a seed? A seed marks the first stage in the life of every plant. Stored safely inside a seed are the main components that a plant needs to develop. So go ahead and grab your seeds. We are going to examine them. Go ahead and grab a couple of seeds. I want you to hold it in your palm. Examine the seed. What does it look like? What color is it? Is it hard? Is it soft? Although it looks kind of dry and frail, it doesn't look like anything special. I can guarantee you, my friend, that every gardener knows just how much alive these seeds really are. Every seed shares the same anatomy, consisting of features needed to survive during their long slumber. To begin, a seed is protected by the seed coat, which is a hard outer coating that protects the inner embryo from the outside world. So think of it as the jacket, right? In the winter, you put on your pants, sometimes tights, your mittens, your gloves, your jacket, your hat. Well, guess what? This is the clothes for the baby seed. And stored inside the seed coat is the embryo, which contains all the vital DNA that the plant will then grow up to be and exhibit in terms of characteristics like height, color, width, etc. Also located inside the seed is the endosperm, which contains the food that the sleeping seed needs to remain viable. Next, we're going to talk about our good old friend H2O. Just like you need water to survive, so do our lovely little seeds. Germination marks the point at which the seed begins to live, taking in nutrients from the soil to generate the energy needed for the first shoots and roots to sprout. While some plants need only moisture to begin germination, others require a very specific temperature. That is why it's very important to pay attention to the growth specifications that you can find on the back of your seed packet. And depending on the seed variety, when you plant or get ready to work on your garden, you'll see different specifications in terms of how deep you need to bury the seed, how far away if you do multiple seeds, so on and so forth. One of my favorite parts of planting a garden is really deciding what seeds am I going to plant this year. I like to think about what I enjoy eating. So have this conversation with your mom or dad or whoever's helping you at home. And what are the things that you always buy at the grocery store? Are they carrots? Is it lettuce for your sandwich and salads? Or do you like to make salsa or spaghetti? I like to do what they called a salsa garden. And that is a garden full of sun-hardy plants, including tomatoes, peppers, aka jalapenos, tomatillos, which is another form of a pepper, onions, and garlic. I also do a variety of other plants, but we'll start there. So have this discussion with your parents. You can also draft out your very own diagram about the location of different plants based on whether they are sun hardy or they need partial shade. So on the back of your seed, you're going to find information printed on a seed packet that provides direct clues about the seed's needs. It can be anything in terms of the shape and texture of your plant. How big is it going to grow? Is it going to be very robust when it grows and you're going to need to plant things farther apart? Or is it going to shoot straight up? Or is it going to be a vine? Nature ensures that animals will be lured to plant seeds by embedding the seeds within delicious fruits and berries. These furry little animals will then consume the fruit, either by the seeds in the soil or eat them and then deposit them back into the soil after digestion. Over time, seeds have developed very unique characteristics in order to adapt to the ecology of their habitat and to ensure their highest possible chance of travel. Today, us humans have become the most important agents that seeds disperse or travel from place to place, going from vegetable to fruit crops. By saving the seeds of your kitchen scraps or your plants we grow each year and sowing them in the ground the following spring, we are ensuring the future survival of this plant species. Now that you've selected the seeds you're going to plant in your very first garden, let's talk about sowing your seeds, but figuring out where in your garden or your backyard you're going to create your garden. In order to do this, I have a very quick exercise. We are going to create a sun seed map. By creating a sun seed map, it's a very fun and interactive way to teach you and really understand the link between different plant species and their sunlight requirements. So go ahead and get some paper, crayons, or even a pencil. And what I want you to do is draw your backyard. For some, that might be a half circle. For others, it might just be a square. I want you to create a large-scale illustration map of your garden and include sun symbols, a little happy sun, for areas with full sun, and then another area with partial or shady areas in your garden. Then I want you to indicate what seeds you are going to put based on their sun requirement. Your typically sun-hardy plants include tomatoes, peppers, big leafy greens like spinach or kale. All right, everyone, now here comes the fun part. Who's ready to plant your seeds? I know I am. So go ahead and grab your gloves. If you don't want to get dirty, put them on. I like to get my hands dirty. I love to feel the soil. It makes me feel connected to Mother Nature. But again, if you want to go ahead, put on your gloves. And what we're going to need is either a small container. If you don't have a container, you can always use a plastic cup. I typically prefer to do biodegradable materials such as your egg cartons because they're very porous and it allows moisture to go through and the roots to anchor when they first start to sprout. So go ahead and grab your pot or your cup. If you do use a plastic cup, I would go ahead and make sure you puncture the bottom to make sure it has drainage holes because you're going to pour a lot of water and it's going to get really wet and drain at the bottom. So go ahead, grab your trusty little pot. You're going to get your little shovel. If you don't have a shovel, you can always scoop with your cup or your pot. Go ahead and fill it. Almost to the top. So I overfilled mine. Usually there's a little nodule, a little line if you can see. I filled my dirt up to the top and I usually pat down that dirt. There's two methods. You can either pat it down and then sprinkle the seeds on top, or you can fill it all the way to the top, which is my personal preference, but you can do it the other way. Again, if you want to experiment and you have multiple pots, try both, see what works. It's all about experimenting and learning. All right, now you're going to pat it down, and with your trusty little pinky, again, you want to make sure you're verifying on the back how far deep. It will give you specifications about the depth of that the seed needs to be buried. Go ahead and grab out your seeds. Get them in your little hand. You can pour directly from the packet, but sometimes you might have tiny seeds. I'm doing a lettuce, a buttercress lettuce, and these seeds, as you can see, are very tiny. So what I like to do, and these are going to go 1/4 inch deep. So if you examine your pinky, that first line underneath your nail bed, you're going to poke a little hole, and I like to do multiple holes depending on how many seeds you're going to do. I usually like to do 3. And just go up to that little line and poke a hole. Oh, we've got a little wormy friend. I don't know if you can see him. Hello, Mr. Worm. Hope we didn't bother you. And then take about 2 to 3 seeds and lightly sprinkle. You're going to have to use your nails or the top of your fingers to pinch the seeds because they're very tiny. And once you've got your seeds in, you're going to cover your holes by patting down the other dirt. and make sure it's nicely compacted. All right? It's almost like we're tucking in the little baby seeds, right? Just like your mom or dad, they like to tuck you in at night. Our fellow seeds like to be tucked in. All right. Make sure you're doing this outside because it is going to get a little messy. Go ahead and start to pour a little bit of water into your seedling. Go ahead and be generous. As you will see, it's going to drain from the bottom, and that's okay, because guess what? Our little seedling friends love the water, and this is the only way that we get to germination to begin. And germination marks the point at which seeds begin to live, right? They're going to start to wake up. They're going to wake up and stretch out their arms. And their arms are also known as their little roots. They're going to sprout out little roots. And I have a lovely ferny friend, Mr. Fern over here. And he's going to, so if you see, this is an example of one of the roots that starts to shoot out. So once you have your plant and it's all nice and wet, make sure you find a nice sunny spot to put our lovely little seedlings. If they're in their egg carton, go ahead and keep that egg carton, but make sure you know which seed is which. You can always use markers if you're doing different seeds so you don't forget which is spinach, which is tomato, and you know exactly what is what. Once you've wet it, go ahead and find a nice sunny spot so that way once the water hits and then the sun combines, that's when germination will begin to take place. All right, now that we've added water and kind of set the alarm for the seed to wake up and start stretching its roots and sprouts into the soil, now we're going to talk about the first part of the plant to emerge from the seed coat is the primary root, or the radicle, which grows downwards into the soil. So I'm going to show you my furry little friend, and his roots grew too long and outside of the pot. So as you notice, once the seed starts to shoot out, the root anchors the seed firmly in the earth that the plant seeds need to grow. Soon afterwards, the plumule, which is a stem-like shoot, as seen here, sprouts from the seed and starts growing upwards towards the earth and towards the light. Once the stem emerges above the ground, the germination stage is over. All right. Once your plants have gone from seed to germination and they start to create their first little buds and you see a little bit of growth, guess what? That means the plant is finally growing up and it's wakened from its slumber. The warmth of the sun seeping into the earth is a crucial signal to a seed to begin the journey out of the earth and into the air. Once the stem has emerged from the soil, the plant begins the amazing process of turning energy into food. This is called photosynthesis, which quite literally means to put together with light. Photosynthesis occurs in two distinct stages. The light reaction, in which plants turn sunlight into chemical forms of energy, called ATP and NADHP. The second is the dark reaction, which is a chemical energy that is turned into sugars. All right, now I'm going to show you, if you don't have seeds readily available in packets like this, you can use your very own kitchen scraps by using fruits and vegetables that you can find in your very own kitchen. So one of the vegetables that I like to use are peppers. Peppers always have their seed inside, like so. So what you're going to want to do is, after mom or dad is done cooking, tell them, they usually cut this part out, which is the center stem. Tell them, don't throw that away, save me those seeds. And what you're going to do is you're going to start to pluck them, and you can put them on a plate. I like to put them on a little napkin. You can do a paper plate or a regular plate, but I like a napkin because it draws out that moisture. And then you're just going to go ahead and start to break apart the seeds. Go ahead and start scraping those seeds out. And just by gently rubbing them, because you don't want to break the endosperm, and they'll pop right off. And you're just going to lay them out for a couple of days. Some people say 5, others say 7. Just to be safe, I would do a full week. Go ahead and lay them out until they're dried and they're ready to be sowed. Same thing with oranges or apples. Go ahead, when you're done eating your fruit, pop out the seeds, put them on your napkin or plate, and then in a week's time, they'll be ready to be put in the ground. If you're like me and love some crunchy celery, what you're going to do is go ahead and cut right below the node, and the node is also known as this little crevice, this little guy who's got arms. Hey, what's up? He also has leaves, so anywhere beneath the leaf part, you're going to want to cut. So just go ahead, and don't worry if you don't want to cut it. Mom or dad, they usually cut this off anyways. It's also really good when you're making soups or caldos. Just adds an extra component of flavor and nutrients. So if you notice, I cut just slightly below the node. And then you're going to fill up a little glass of water, or a little vase, and go ahead and put your crispy cucumber in the water like so. And within a couple of days, it won't take long, it will take about 5 to 7 days, it's going to start to shoot out some roots. Once it starts to shoot out roots, you're good to go, and put that little bad boy into the ground. Make sure when you are saving your seeds that you're keeping them in sealed containers. After you dry them out, make sure you can put them in a mason jar. I typically put them in a Ziploc bag, and I'll label them. And just make sure that when you are drying out your seeds or you're keeping them, they're in a cool and dry location. Fridges work well if you have the space. And again, just make sure you're labeling each seed with the name and date to keep kind of an inventory so you won't forget. All right, friends, now that you understand the magic behind photosynthesis and how plants or little seedlings can turn sunlight, water, and carbon dioxide into the food it needs to grow up to be a big, bushy, healthy plant, you are ready to start your very own vegetable garden. So don't forget the basics. 1, when you're going out in your backyard, make a diagram. Try to find a space that's open and has beautiful access to the sun. Number 2, you want to make sure that you have healthy soil. Does your soil look cracked and dry? Well, that's okay. You might need to add nutrients. And the easiest way you can add nutrients, such as nitrogen, magnesium, phosphorus, is by adding compost. If you don't have a compost pile, don't worry. You can go to your local gardening store and buy active compost. And compost is just a fancy word for healthy dirt, right? We want to make sure that it's going to look almost like coffee grounds. and it's going to have a mixture of chicken or cow manure. Ew, I know, it's gross, but it has very important bacteria to activate the organisms and the right fungus in your soil. Two, you want to make sure that there is aeration. So you can also add different things like mulch, dead leaves, twigs, so on and so forth. When you go to your local gardening store, make sure you ask them if they have already pre-made compost. And in that compost, you're going to have all the necessary ingredients so you don't have to start your own compost at home. All right, my friends. Now that you know the 3 basic fundamentals of starting your very own healthy garden, such as soil, water, and viable seeds, now you are ready and equipped to start your very own vegetable garden. Once you start gardening, don't be afraid to show off your gardening prowess. Take photos, share them on social media, and tag us with. All right, my friends, adios, happy eating. Ugh. All right, my friends, adios, happy gardening.